Hi, I'm Kelly with citruscycles.ca. I'm here with Moustache's Samedi 26 Wild. It's a electric fat bike powered by the Bosch CX with Moustache's well-known hidden power integrated battery there. These massive front and rear specific 4.8-inch wide tires, which are doing really well in the bit of snow we've got here in Ladysmith on Vancouver Island today. We have the RockShox Bluto suspension fork up front, Moustache's own dropper post. It's a really beautiful looking bike, so much fun to ride. I'm having a great time. In this video review, I'm going to take you through all the details of the bike. I'm going to talk about why a fat bike might be a useful tool for you, and I'm going to take you on a ride test. This is going to be fun. I'm having such a great time so far. For all the details on the bike, the detailed specs, current pricing, hey, if you want to order online, we offer free shipping most places in Canada. If you want to set up an appointment to try it out here in Ladysmith, or you have some questions about it, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. So before I get into the detailed specs of the bike and take you on the ride test, let me just talk a little bit about why you might want a fat bike. The obvious application is when you've got snow like this, like we have today here in Ladysmith. And that's actually what the fat bikes were originally designed for, was for snow. With these super wide tires on this bike, we've got 4.8-inch wide tires. Even in really deep snow, you know, we don't have a lot here right now today. A little bit more out there. Once you're in the forest, there's not as much snow, but with these massive tires, you can really float over the snow. You get the tire pressure really low, and you can go on the snowshoe trails, and you can have a great time. But the tires, those wide tires, it turns out they're also really great on any kind of looser terrain. So sand, these are great at the beach. Just make sure you give it a good cleaning afterwards, because again, with those wide tires, you're just going to kind of float over everything. So originally, people will get a fat bike because, well, they want to ride in the snow. But you know what? We're finding our customers are loving the fat bike because, okay, you look at this and you go, wow, that thing must drive like a tractor or a tank with those big tires. It's crazy. And then you get on it and you ride it, and it's so much fun, and you don't notice the wide tires other than giving you loads and loads of traction. And that's the real benefit of having a fat bike with these tires, is traction. So even if you're commuting, you know, commuting on a day like today where we've got a lot of slush on the road, or really wet, slippery roads in the summer, these wide tires just give you so much more contact with the ground, that not only when you're riding, when you're turning, when you're handling the bike, but also when you're needing to stop, you're going to be able to stop a lot more quickly, a lot safer when you've got these really big tires. So if you're a commuter and you ride all seasons, this is a great bike. The other really exciting thing about the fat bike tires is that if you're kind of just getting into mountain biking, or you ride with somebody that's, you know, a real aggressive rider and real technical skills, and you want to go along, but it's you know, it's intimidating. The great thing about these tires is you can roll over everything. So you don't have to be really careful about picking your line going down the hill. You just ride, you know, you're not going to get thrown off. You're not going to have to worry about safety as much. And so for a lot of people just getting into mountain biking, this is a great solution. Logging roads, it really helps smooth out the ride. And that's the other thing about these tires, right? So we've got the Maxxis Minion FBR, so it's a fat bike rear tire on the back here. It's got a very different tread pattern in the front tire. This is going to give you lots of traction. And you need the traction to climb the hills because we've got this massive 50-tooth cassette on here, which gives you an amazing ability to climb hills when you couple that with the Bosch CX drive unit. So these tires are going to help you just dig right into all that loose material. And really, it's the loose stuff on the trails that can cause problems. And so it's nice to have that. We've got the front tire is a Minion FBF. So again, a fat bike front tire, 4.8 inches wide. And so what this is doing is also giving you a lot of comfort. So it's giving you stability and control. It's also just really smoothing out the ride because you can get the tire pressure down to as low as 8 psi. That's going to really absorb a lot of the bumps and roots and rocks and everything in the trail. And just, you know, even if you're just hopping off of curbs and stuff, it's going to give you a lot of comfort. So it's really nice. Now, speaking of comfort, we also have the RockShox Bluto up front here. And so sometimes people say, well, you know, what do we need a suspension fork on a fat bike for? Well, you know, because the tires do provide some suspension. And that's definitely true, and you may be able to get by with one without it. I noticed when upgrading from a rigid frame fat bike to one with a Bluto that it actually made a pretty big difference, because there are times when the tire simply can't deform enough, so so you get some deflection. That kind of throws you around a little bit. With the RockShox Bluto here, 100 millimeters of travel, it's really going to absorb a lot of that for you and help you to stay steady and secure on your ride. So I do like having the Bluto on there. So I kind of got off track a little bit there in terms of why you'd want a fat bike, but hopefully I've kind of covered it all. Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's so much fun to ride. This is a really interesting design from Moustache. So they've done some great things to the geometry of the bike, and so, you know, their classic hidden power battery here. So what I love about this is you just slide this cover off. It's just a plastic kind of rubberized cover. There's a Bosch Power Pack 500. So that's a Bosch standard battery, easily removable. Speaking of removing it, the plug here where you put the key in, that's on a leash, so if you open this up, it's actually not going to fall off, you're not going to lose it. Same for the charging port. So good job, Moustache, because sometimes we see that these are removable and then you leave them somewhere or they fall off, and that's not good. So what I like about the Power Pack is that the center of gravity is actually lower. So if you're actually using this as a serious trail riding bike, which you definitely could, it's completely ready for that, especially with the dropper post, which I'll get to soon. This is getting your center of gravity nice and low. Or if you're using this for you know, really long rides, the great thing about that Power Pack is you can bring a spare in a backpack or, you know, a seat post mount rack or something like that, and easy enough to throw that in there, swap it out, and really get a really long ride. So I like that design there. You've got a really nice sloping top tube here, so a nice low standover height, and again, for people that are maybe just getting into mountain biking or want to ride a little bit more aggressively, it's nice because this is really forgiving, right? So you're not going to be as anxious about riding on maybe new terrain because you've got that to help keep you safe. And again, we've got Moustache's own dropper post here, super smooth. I love the dropper post. We've got this really nice lever here to activate it, so you just press that, put some weight on the saddle here, which is hard for me to do with one hand. Let's see if I can do it with my elbow. There we go, and boom, we can lower the seat. And you do that to get your center of gravity lower when you're going down a steep hill, so that way you're a little bit more stable. And again, with these super stable tires, you can really just do almost anything with this bike. And when you want it back up, you just press the lever here and you'll see it'll pop back up. And you can of course do any height in between. You know, it's also kind of cool if you're, you know, being a little bit lazy and you don't want to get off your bike when you stop at a stop sign or something. You can just drop the dropper post and just kind of stand there, which is kind of fun. It also makes it easy for getting on and off the bike, which some people like. So yeah, you can definitely, you know, do some really great trail riding with this. We do have an integrated bash guard on the Bosch drive unit here, which is great to keep the drive unit protected if you're doing some pretty crazy stuff. And I'll talk about the Bosch drive in a few moments. I already alluded to the fact that we've got a massive 11 to 50 tooth cassette back here. I think it's Sunrace, which makes it really durable. That's a nice thing about the Sunrace cassettes, is they're really sturdy. They're going to last a long time because you're going to be riding this bike, you may be riding it hard. It's nice to know that that's going to handle all of that. We've got a Shimano Dior XT level drivetrain here with a one-way clutch to kind of tighten up that chain to prevent it, you know, from slapping, for example. And we've got an integrated slap guard here, which is really nice as well. Moustache kind of thought through everything. We have a nice double-sided kind of chain bash guard, chain guide here. This is really clever, actually. You see this, we've got this Miranda kind of fat bike spacer here that moves the chain out and away from the Bosch drive unit. So this is a challenge when designing a fat bike with a Bosch drive unit or any, you know, mid-drive motor, is how do you clear the tire and how do you keep the chain line and everything in the right configuration. So sometimes manufacturers will actually slide the drive unit over and kind of put a little bit of a cutout in the chainstay or something like that in order for everything to work. Maybe on the other side, for example, if they move the drive unit, then the pedal can collide with the chainstay. This is really clever. I love this. They've centered the drive unit and just kind of pushed out the chain ring here, and that allows you really nice chain line here, so you're not worried about you know, being really close, because I'm almost in my highest or lowest gear here right now, biggest cog, so to speak, and we've still got quite a bit of clearance from that 4.8-inch tire, so that's really nice. Oh, while I'm down here, pedals, actually, this is pretty good. I often complain about the pedals on bikes because, you know, it's very hard for manufacturer to know what you're going to want, but I do like these are fairly wide. They've got pins on them, so I'd ride with these. They're good that way. We'll talk about the Bosch drive unit in a moment. Let's head up to the top here. We've got our trigger shifters. Oh, right, we've got the Shimano, I think these are the MT500 hydraulic disc brakes. A 203 millimeter rotor up front, which is great, so tons and tons of stopping power, and a 180 on the back there. And of course, we definitely want hydraulic disc brakes on a fat bike. You know, it's a heavier bike, you're going to be going faster, you're going to be doing maybe some more aggressive riding with it, and you definitely want to make sure that it's going to be able to stop you. And with the hydraulic brakes, you're not relying on the strength of your fingers to stop the bike. You're using the hydraulic fluid. They're self-adjusting. You don't have to worry about the cable stretching or breaking or that sort of thing, so that's really nice. And we do have some lever adjustments there as well. Oh, while I'm thinking of it, while I'm down the front here, this is a through axle, of course, with the RockShox Bluto again. Super stable, super strong, which is really important on a fat bike. And the nice thing about this RockShox fork, it is, they've got some e-bike suggestions here to add an extra 10 psi, so that's a good recommendation. It is an air fork, so we do have an air port here. Just use a shock pump to put some more air in, depending on your riding style and your weight, and we have a compression adjustment on the fork as well. Okay, back up to the cockpit here, we do have these really nice locking grips. They have a little bit of a textured pattern underneath here, which is kind of cool, and fairly wide bars, fairly flat stem, a little bit of rise. This is going to give you a lot of control over the bike. I found it really comfortable, actually. I really like the riding position, but of course you could easily change these to ergo grips if you're doing more commuting, maybe a little bit of a sweep back, or a little bit more rise, or in a more elevated stem if you wanted to be in a more upright riding position. But I actually really like the riding position so far. It's been really great. We could change the saddle as well if you wanted to. This is a very sporty saddle. It's ideal for trail riding, but it's a little bit on the firm side, so again, that's an easy thing that you could change if you wanted to. Okay, let's talk about the Bosch drive unit. We're using Bosch's Purion display. This is a very compact display, a little bit more crash resistant. It is permanently mounted to the bike. There is a USB port for diagnostics, so you can hook it up to the computer and run reports for you, but you aren't able to charge a USB device through that port, unlike the Intuvia display, which kind of goes in the middle here and isn't quite as crash resistant. It also has a watch battery that'll need to be replaced from time to time. So occasionally we get people saying, hey, this says, you know, battery low, but you know, my battery's fully charged. What's up with that? There is a little battery in there that you'll need to replace from time to time. Nice and compact, easy to read, nice big numbers. There's your current speed, there's your current level of assistance, and the battery level. And when I press and hold the minus, that'll cycle through the information. So there's my trip, my odometer, and my range, which is really cool. So the Bosch system actually dynamically calculates how much further you can go based on how far you've come so far, and you know, the last 2 kilometers or so. And so it'll project forward based on the level of assistance you're in. So if I go all the way up to turbo, it's going to say, well, you know, now you can only go 28k. If I go down to eco, which is the lowest level of assistance, it's saying, hey, you can do 57. And my battery isn't even fully charged. So we're actually getting, you know, pretty good range with this. So it's nice having that range feature, and press and hold the minus, it goes back to the eco. So, you know, really very simple. Eco is the lowest level of assistance. The Bosch system is actually sensing your torque, that is how hard you're pedaling, your cadence, that is how quickly your legs are spinning, and the speed of the bike 1,000 times per second. And so basically it's reading your mind. So when you put it on eco, it's going to give you 50% of your input power. Then when you move it up to tour, it'll give you 120%. EMTB, now this is really cool. On a bike like this, I would leave it here, but we could reprogram that to be called just sport and just be another level. But Bosch designed the EMTB in conjunction with their CX drive to be an automatic dynamic adaptive mode. So basically, you know, you get into, this isn't too difficult of a trail here, but if you get into a difficult section trail, you know, you don't want to be fiddling with your bike computer going, oh, I want more power, oh, I want less power. You just want to set it and forget it. And that's what the EMTB does, is you leave it there, you pedal really hard, gives you lots of power. You pedal lighter, gives you less power. So it's kind of this adaptive mode. It's great for trails. People like it for just all everyday riding as well, because you know, sometimes you put it up to turbo, which is the maximum power for the hill, and then you forget that it's there, and then it's, you know, using a lot of your battery. So with the EMTB, you just kind of leave it, and it automatically, you know, adjusts to a lower level of assistance when you don't need as much power. So that's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, if you need to reset your trip counter, you can press and hold the plus and minus at the same time. That'll reset it there. We do have walk mode as well, so there's a button on the bottom here that says walk. I press it and nothing happens, and you think, oh man, walk mode isn't working, what am I going to do? The first thing to check is to make sure that you are on a level of assistance, whether it be Eco, Tour, EMTB, or Turbo, and then remind yourself, Walk Plus is telling you now press and hold the plus button. Now the bike, watch out because the crank arms are going to move. The bike's going to move itself along at about a 4 or 5 kilometer an hour pace. So that's great if you get into, you know, stairs on the trail or some really difficult sections, or, you know, you're riding off the ferry, they don't want you riding off the ferry ramp or in a pedestrian area. It's really handy to have that walk mode. So that's available with the Bosch Pure on display there. I already mentioned the Bosch Power Pack battery. Bosch is 500 watt hours, so tremendous range. I mentioned that it's 500 watt hour because Bosch also has a 400 watt hour battery available. The cool thing about Bosch is they don't allow, like, this isn't a Moustache battery in here, right? This is a Bosch battery. Bosch doesn't allow manufacturers to make their own battery because they want to know that, you know, 7 or 8 years from now, if you need a replacement, you're going to be able to get it. And if it's up to the bike manufacturer and you've got, you know, all these different manufacturers and every year they're changing their battery design, they're a little bit concerned that, you know, maybe they won't have that battery design in the future. So with Bosch, they've actually done a really good job. So this 500 watt hour battery, it's interchangeable and backwards compatible with the 400 watt hour. So when they came out with the new one, they said, hey, let's not leave our customers behind. If you bought a Bosch bike 4 years ago, you can walk into the store, I've got stock on the 500 watt hour, put it on your bike and ride away. So it's really nice to see that from Bosch. Super reliable, you know, really great on the service front. I can get parts and service and everything from them, and the riding experience is awesome. So this is the Bosch's CX drive, and that means it's their most amount of torque, most responsive. Put a little bit of force on the pedals in the middle of a hill and you'll get started right away. You don't have to worry about having a throttle or trying to get going because it's super, super responsive. It knows what you're doing. 75 Newton meters of torque. Torque is what you need to climb the hills. Being a mid-drive, really well mounted here, well protected. The weight is low and centered, which is what you want. It's not in the rear hub, which is not where you want the weight. Again, the battery, nice and low, centered, so really well balanced bike. With the mid-drive motor, the motor is turning the chain, not the wheel. And so that means when you change to this massive 50-tooth cassette gear here, first gear to climb a really, really steep hill, that impacts directly on the motor. So your motor now has a transmission. With a rear hub motor, no transmission, it's always in the same gear. That also not only makes it harder to climb hills, but it decreases your efficiency. So this is super efficient because, you know, you change to an easier gear and it impacts on the motor, and the motor is now spinning at a more efficient RPM. And in fact, that's part of why we have this really tiny chainring on the Bosch system. There's actually a gear reduction mechanism in there that actually, you know, kind of steps it up to a regular size chainring. And what that does is, again, it gives you a lot of efficiency and gives you a lot of responsivity. It really responds very, very quickly. Loving the Bosch CX drive on this bike. It's a really great choice. Trying to think if anything I missed. I should have mentioned, you know, we do have, these are Moustache specific rims. They made them themselves. They are welded. I love, you know, Moustache when they can't find something that's perfect and they just make it themselves. So that's what they did with these rims. They are tubeless ready, so you could actually go tubeless if you'd wanted to. Beautiful color, right? Beautiful looking bike. Oh, we've got these crazy lights here. And a bell. I'm wondering if it's maybe a regulatory thing in France that they have to include some sort of lights. We've got a little reflector on there. It's not particularly bright. You know, it just comes with the bike. We put it on. Obviously, you're not going to be using that to ride the trail at night. But hey, you know what? With the Bosch system, we do have 1,000 lumen lights we can mount to the stem here, wire it into the bike, and you know, you can ride at night. And we've got a rear light there as well. So I'm going to try to take you on some ride tests here. If I've missed anything, if you have any questions, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. So sometimes when I'm riding back from doing a video, I realize there's a few things that I forgot and I have to pen them as an addenda. So here we go. I probably forgot to mention that Moustache makes their bikes in France. So the quality is exceptional, but there's more to it than that. And you know, so somebody else could, there's a lot of other fat bikes on the market, they could have very similar components, but when you come and you ride it, there's just something about it. And you know, the French would say, you know, it's a je ne sais quoi, because I can't really say what it is. It's just there's something about what Moustache does, the geometry, the frame design, the way they put the components together. It's just, it comes together and it rides better than you would think by some of the parts. And so it's a fantastic bike to ride. Changes, I always try to talk about changes that I'd make to the bike, and you know, I couldn't really think of a whole lot. It would be cool if they used the new kiosk display, but that just came out, and you know, I can see why that's not the case here. The Puron is actually nice and quite compact. Be cool if it had integrated lights, but again, not everybody's crazy like me and likes to go riding in the snow at night. So that's something that we can easily add for you. That's an easy change to make. I usually complain about the pedals, but I really like those. Oh, I forgot to mention, there is actually, this is interesting, there's actually a kickstand mounting port there on the side there, so you could actually add a kickstand. Wouldn't recommend that for trail riding, but you know, if you're using this for commuting, that would be pretty cool. Speaking of commuting, fenders, wouldn't it be awesome if Moustache took their tubular design fenders and made them for a fat bike? And I'm wondering, you know, what's up with that, if that's maybe a possibility in the future, because look, we've got these mounting points here, kind of almost perfect for fenders, and the side here, so we could certainly add a rack for you. We'd need to use some P-clamps for that because there aren't brazons here for the rack. So I have reached out to Moustache, and we'll see, maybe check our website to see if they do end up deciding to do some sort of fender design. Would be awesome. But in the meantime, we do have seat post fenders that we can mount for you, fenders that can go on the front fork here as well to keep you dry in the kind of slush that we've got today. So what else should I say? Oh, right, I don't get paid for doing these videos. I do this because it's fun, and this is this is how I make a living, is by selling pedal assist electric bikes, and this is my life. This is how I get around. I ride every day. It's so much fun. And so you know, my opinions are just my opinions, and no one's paying me for them, other than obviously, you know, if you come to our website, citruscycles.ca, and buy a bike, or come to the store and buy a bike, that's going to help me out, because that's how I you know, feed my family, and that's awesome. We really appreciate your support. And awesome bike. If this isn't the bike for you, head over to our website. We've got video reviews of all sorts of other bikes. Come by the store. We've got, you know, tons and tons of different bikes in the store, because I want to help you find the perfect bike, and that's what these videos are all about. So thanks for watching. Stick around for the test ride video if you want, and hey, you can always subscribe if you'd like to check out other videos that I do, or head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. I'm really excited to be able to do this review with some snow. It's not very often we get snow here on Vancouver Island, and it's not very often we get this much. So this is actually pretty awesome for the review. Of course, the fat bike is great for everything, and not just snow. It's awesome in snow, but you can use it for trails and commuting and everything else. And so we're about around 0 right now, so although the snow looks fluffy, it's actually really slippery. So I'm just going to do a couple of laps here to get an idea of how well these tires are working in the snow. They're not snow specific. You could of course put some 4.8 inch tires on here that are studded or designed specifically for snow, but these are actually doing really well. So let me do some quick handling here, and it's not really slipping as I kind of wiggle through the snow there. Let me slam on the brakes a little bit. When I locked up that front wheel, I got a little bit of slide there. Try it again. Wow, it's really digging in really well. Let me try that again. That's really impressive for tires that aren't specifically designed for snow. They're actually gripping in really well. I'll head out and get onto some slush as well, but in the deep kind of snow here, no problems with the with braking. And let me see if I can spin out that back tire, pedaling really hard. So I'm like, nope. Try that again. No spinning at all there. It's just digging right in. It's really incredible, especially for a tire that's, you know, not specifically for the winter. Okay, we got some slush and muck here. I'm gonna have to give the bike a good cleaning after I'm done the ride, and I should have thrown a front fender on there. But here we go with braking. No problem stopping with the slush. Getting to the corner here where there's a little bit more slush. And I managed to lock up the rear tire there, but it actually gripped. Yeah, this is no problem on slush. So if you were wanting to use this as a commuter, into some more slush here. The can't seem to slip out at all. Braking hard. No problems with that either. Yeah, so if you're wanting to use this as an all-season commuter bike, you know, normally I recommend to people, you know, change the tires based on the season. So, you know, put some snow tires on. If you've got a lot of ice, go with a studded tire. Makes a huge difference. In fact, you know, it's kind of funny because in a way I feel I'm safer on a fat bike with studded tires in the winter than my vehicle, because it just feels I've got even more control than winter tires on a vehicle. But you know, if you were only had occasional weather like this, like we do here on the island, you wouldn't even have to change these tires because they're just doing so well. They're just really gripping in. We'll do a bit of a hill climb here for you. I'm going to bump it up. It's on tour there. I'm going to put it on EMTB. That's that automatic dynamic adaptive mode. And as long as I'm willing to pedal a little bit harder, it's going to know I'm pedaling harder and boost me up to turbo. Of course, if I don't want to do that, I can just press it up to turbo now. I don't really have to pedal that hard. And I'll make it up the hill. Now, this isn't a particularly steep hill. It's not too long either. But on a fat bike with 4.8-inch tires and low pressure, I don't know, probably got about 9 or 10 psi right now. On a regular bike, you might be pushing. I mean, unless you're an Olympic athlete, it's going to be really hard. And that's the great thing about having the assistance, right? Is I'm still working at it, and I can choose to work at it as hard as I want. I can get as much exercise as a regular bike. But the nice thing is I can look at this hill and go, hey, no problem, looks fun, let's see what's up there. Got a nice trail I want to hit up here, some great views. Let's do it. Whereas on a regular bike, you know, I'd be like, well, you know, it's cold, it's snowing, it's slippery. I don't want to go up there. All right, here's a nice trail we're gonna get onto, some deeper snow. There was a little bit of rear tire slippage with that deeper snow, and that's, again, not surprising given that they're not specific for snow, but wow, they're just digging in there, no problem. Let me loop back here so you can see the tread pattern. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on the video here or not, but you can see, you know, that 4.8-inch width there is just helping me to loads of traction. This is so much fun. Really, you know, gotta admit I was really disappointed to see the forecast and to see the snow this morning, and then I remembered about this bike and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Indeed it is. It's, you know, it's beautiful out here. And again, you know, fat bikes aren't all about snow, but if you live somewhere where you have snow like this, you know, instead of staying inside and waiting for spring, this is awesome. You can get out and you can ride and enjoy how beautiful it is. Handling really well. It's really lumpy under the snow here, actually. The RockShox Bluto is doing a good job up front soaking that up. Feeling a little bit of the bumps in the back, you know, and that's where full suspension would be awesome, but the tire is definitely doing a good job of absorbing all that. And you know, I kind of go back and forth. I love having the dropper post for trail riding, so I'd keep that. But you know, if you weren't doing a lot of trail riding, you didn't need the dropper, and you really wanted a really comfortable ride, then throw a suspension seat post on there, and that would be pretty awesome. I really enjoy the riding position. So I feel, you know, I'm doing a little bit of a descent here. It's snow, it's slippery, you know, I do need to be careful. And so it's nice that I feel really in control of the bike. I'm a little bit forward, got a nice wide bar here. So I really feel that I've got good handling over the front end of the bike here. And that's really important when you're, you know, riding trails. But at the same time, you know, I don't feel like I'm really uncomfortably hunched over. I don't feel like I'm going to get, you know, back or shoulder or neck issues. So they've really done a great job of finding kind of a compromise between, you know, wanting to make sure that you got lots of control and not being too uncomfortable. I'm really impressed with how easily I'm climbing these hills with the snow, because normally, you know, we'd be kind of spinning out a fair bit. As long as you get your weight kind of transferred to that back tire there, there's a little bit more slippage. Seems to be gripping pretty well. So yeah, really great riding position. Quite enjoying that. I feel I've got really good visibility because I am kind of partly upright, but still really in control of the bike. And I like that visibility that I have. And so as a commuter bike, it would actually work out really well that way as well. If you were using it as a commuter bike, I'd probably change out the grips. You know, on a mountain bike, we typically see these kind of grips because you are going to adjust your riding position. And so you don't want the grips to kind of have a one position for comfort. But if you were mostly commuting, or, you know, you're changing your position much, then yeah, I maybe would change those out to the Ergon GP2s or something like that to get a lot of nice traction. So you'll notice I'm mostly riding through the fluffier snow here. And again, on a regular fat bike, you'd be pushing a lot, you're losing a lot of efficiency. With the assistance here, I'm doing that because it's less slippery underneath, so I can, you know, truck along a little bit quicker here without worrying about slipping the rear tire. You know, if I go over onto the track here, this is fine. This is mush. These tires do amazing at mush. And now we're back onto you know, hard pack, which is going to be a little slipperier. Let me get ready here and boost it. Nothing slipping on the back end there. Stop quickly, no problem digging in on this. So yeah, you really can't get over how well these tires are performing in the snow. And isn't it beautiful up here? I mean, this is fantastic. Oh wow, it handles you know, mud really well, but I really needed to throw a front face shield on the front fork there. Glasses, and I imagine the camera's starting to get a little dirty. So, you know, relatively flat. I'm getting close to 30. Now I got a bit of an incline, so I'm able to get up some speed pretty well. I haven't encountered any really steep hills yet. Check out that 50-tooth cassette. Shifts are nice and snappy. Boy, this is fun. All right, well, you probably don't need a 2-hour ride test video. I'm probably going to be riding for 2-3 hours. So I'll maybe cut the video here at this waterfall. I'll take you on a few more climbs, a few more trails, but you know, you can skip to the end of the video if you wish, or I'll see, I'll probably have to do a second video. It's going to take a while for the snow to melt. Again, you don't need a fat bike only for snow. It's great for everything and all sorts of trails, and I'll try to post a second video on trails without snow later in the spring. I don't really have anything to say about the bike. It's awesome, but it's just so beautiful in here. I wanted to share some of this with you. The tires are definitely got some noise to them. It's not unusual with a 4.8-inch Shinobi tire like this, the Minion VHF, DHR, because that's what's giving me so much traction. It's really incredible here. Now they do actually make, you know, kind of more slicker fat bike tires, so it's certainly, if the noise is bothering you, you can get some slicker tires on there. They'll be a lot quieter. It doesn't bother me at all. They are a little bit noisier than a regular tire, of course, but having that traction is totally worth it. When we get into the snow here like this, they're completely silent. This is so much fun. It's so quiet. Some people complain about the Bosch motor being noisy, and it is. It can give the perception of being a little bit noisier than some of the other drives, like Bros does a little bit on the quieter side. But I barely notice it at all, especially, you know, with the snow noise, with the road noise, then you don't notice it. Got a creek on the right here, that's the Holland Creek. Now on this climb here, I'm going to have to be careful because we did get some cold temperatures before the snow, so there's going to be a lot of ice under here. This is actually another great example of where the fat bike shines, because under this road, and if you look out my other videos, I'll see if I can post to one of this once we get rid of the snow, which might take a while. This is an old logging road. It's full of little boulders, a lot of loose material. It's all buried by the snow right now, but it's under there and I can feel it occasionally. And it's nice with these tires. We're getting back into the deep stuff here. I don't have to worry about it. So if I, you know, because I've been hitting some pretty massive boulders under here, like that one there, and you just kind of fly over them. It's not a problem. So even if you're not riding in snow, that's definitely appeal to a lot of our customers, is being able to go on stuff like this, you know, that has a lot of rough terrain, and not have to kind of really pay attention to the ground and making sure that you're picking a good line and avoiding all the obstacles. You know, you can just ride and have fun and enjoy it. We're getting into some deeper and deeper snow here as we climb, gain elevation. So what happens in this deeper snow is, you know, I'm not going to want to try to make really sudden turns. I mean, it's doing a reasonable job. But you kind of try to keep going straight. There we go. Beautiful waterfall. This is why you need a bike like this. This is amazing. This is usually dry in the summer, so it's fun being able to come up here and enjoy it with the ice and the snow. You know, just looking at the back there, I still haven't needed to go to my easiest gear for any of these climbs, and I'm really grateful for it, because sometimes, you know, you look at it and go, what do you need a 50-tooth cassette for? Like, I'm not climbing hills like that. But you know, I'm definitely noticing with the snow, this is a much more difficult climb. I'm using a much easier gear than I would when it's dry. So even if you're not climbing massive hills, it's nice having that, and you can just kind of crawl right up. And if I need to keep my speed down for safety as I'm crawling up, it's not a problem, because I've got the gear ratio to do it. And despite the massive range that it has and the massive size of that cassette, I'm not having any problems shifting up and down. Well, I'm going to genuinely be sad when the snow is gone. I can't believe I'm saying that. I ask my children, they know I hate snow. Can't ride as much, but this This is fantastic. Look at that. See if I can get you a better view of the waterfall in there. There and behind, you can kind of see there's ice in there, the snow. I could have hiked up here. I would have needed a few hours in the whole day. I'm actually just sneaking away from work for a bit of a ride here. I can cover so much more ground. All right, I'll cut it here and come back maybe on the descent. Here's another little climb. And it's amazing how much harder these climbs are when you're pushing all this snow. But again, lots of gearing. There we go, now I'm in my easiest gear. Make it up this steep slope and wiped out on some snow there. Now the nice thing about the Bosch drive unit here, you know, a lot of times people ask me, hey, you know, do you have a throttle? It's like, no, you don't need one, because as soon as I put force on that pedal, I'm going to get the assistance from the motor there. You can see just climbing right up, no problem. So you can actually start right on a hill and you don't need that throttle. And that's because you get the assistance right away from the motor. And you put it on a high enough level of assistance and you're just going to fly up whatever you need. Alright, we've got the descent. I'm going to drop the dropper. There we go, nice and low. Center of gravity low to the ground, because I got to be careful on here. The snow looks soft, but the ground underneath is pretty hard if I fall. So far, handling really well. Every now and then you hear a noise from the back. I threw a Axiom rear runner fat fender on there, and occasionally on a pretty big bump it flexes a fair bit and rub on the tire. I just need to make some adjustments on that, make it a little bit higher, and I should get rid of that problem. So I won't be, you know, I'm not by any means an expert rider. But I think that's, you know, doesn't bother me, and maybe for some of our people watching this, they wish that it could be professional. I'm not at all, just a guy that likes riding and you know, giving you my honest feedback on the bike. I'm loving that dropper post. So yeah, I'm not going to set any speed records on the way down here. You'll have to watch some of my other videos to see this ride without snow and some of the rocks that are under there. You can kind of see, you know, signs of them poking out there. Bike's handling it so well when I, you know, just ride right over them through those potholes and through those bumps. It's handling it really, really well. It's that waterfall again. Well, maybe as I descend here, we'll get some patches without snow. I'll go take a look for that. If not, I'll try to do a subsequent video later without the snow. Maybe we'll try to hit the beach in the sand, but it's definitely an awesome bike. I'm really enjoying this ride. Okay, and I just had to add this part in. Following the creek here, it's just so amazing. Incredible. Okay, so I don't know if I'll keep this in, if I have to cut it out, because I may completely wipe out, but this is actually hilarious. This is a really steep hill, really soft, wet snow, and can you hear that? Can you hear that? That's the front tire digging in down this hill as I brake. Now, awesome brakes, you know, 2 or 3 mil rotors up front, 180 on the back. And I was a little bit worried because I thought, man, I'm going to wipe out on that hill. But not locking up at all. The brakes, lots of modulation, and that's just hilarious. You can actually hear those tires just digging right in as I descend. You know, I'm loving the geometry of this bike, and I really shouldn't be talking as I do tricky stuff like this. Anyways, I do love the geometry of the bike. I'm really finding it works equally as well for descents like this and for climbs. You know, a lot of times on climb it's tough, especially in snow like this. You need to get a lot of weight on the back to keep traction while you're climbing, but if you get onto a hill that's too steep and you've got too much weight on the back, you're actually going to start having front wheel lift. And it seems like, you know, Moustache really put a lot of thought. I must have spent a lot of time designing this bike. This is their first fat bike, first time doing it. You know, yeah, there are a lot of other companies that have done them sooner. These guys really nailed the geometry on it. So I'm not having any issues climbing with, you know, finding the way to get the balance so I don't have front wheel lift and I still have enough traction on the back. And descending down that hill was no problem at all. Loving the dropper. Is so smooth. It's a really nice dropper post, and I can see why they decided to design their own. So anyways, I just had to show you those tires just kind of digging in. And, you know, comment on the geometry, because if you're looking online at bikes, you know, and trying to decipher things, you can look at all the components, but, you know, riding it is so important because it really, you know, the geometry and the design really just makes a big difference. Big root under there. You just roll right over it with these tires. Lots of modulation in these brakes, lots of stopping power. Okay, so I'm gonna get a face full of road grime now, but I just want to show you, the gearing ratio on the bike. It's definitely geared towards climbing. I did some really steep hills, no problem. But what I'm gonna find is probably as I get towards you know, 35, there, I'm at 40 now. There's really no point in pedaling anymore. So it's really geared there. You know, once I'm at 40, then I can start pedaling again and I can put some power into the bike. Anything above 40, I'm just completely dirty right now. I don't know if you can see anything out the camera, but basically once I get past 40, the gearing is such that you're just going to be spinning your legs too fast. And I think, you know, that could be changed if you put a different size chainring on the front there, but it was a smart move on Moustache's part, because you're not really on a fat bike going to be that keen on going faster than 40 very often and still be pedaling. But you are going to want to climb up really steep hills, because you can keep the traction, whether it's mud and gravel or snow like we've been experiencing today. You can really crawl up anything, and that's really great. They balance the bike out well with the geometry, the riding position, great selection of tires. You know, really very enjoyable riding experience, and actually surprisingly fast coming down that hill, despite being a low tire pressure and super wide tires. I was still getting about 56, and on regular bikes, you know, I don't exceed too much faster than 60 coming down there, so it's very impressive. Okay, I've been riding a couple hours now actually, and absolutely loving it, having a great time exploring a lot of these trails and roads. I probably used about half my battery so far, so I could actually keep riding for a couple more hours. It's starting to get a little bit darker. You know, a lot of our customers use their fat bike, you know, for kind of exploring in the backcountry like this. So if you get to gates like that, and it's not that I'm trespassing, this is part of the trail system, but it allows me to cover a lot more ground than I can with walking. And of course, you can't come up here with a motorized vehicle. But the great thing about a pedal assist electric bike is it isn't considered a motorized vehicle. Of course, I still have to pedal for it to help me out, but it definitely is helpful, especially, you know, on a day like today where we've got all the snow. And so by law, the speed stops, the motor stops when you get to 32 kilometers an hour. Of course, you can go faster than that. Coming down that hill, I was getting closer to 60, but of course, if I were pedaling, the motor wouldn't be assisting me, because 32 is the maximum speed allowed in Canada. And you know what that means is that anywhere that you can ride your bike, you can ride a pedal assist electric bike. Even if the sign says no motorized vehicles, under the law, an e-bike is not considered a motorized vehicle. It's just considered a bike. So you can use it for exploring stuff like this. I'm having a great time. This is one of my favorite test rides, really. It's so beautiful. It's not that often we get snow here. I suppose if you live somewhere where you have snow half the year, Manitoba, well, I don't miss it, but I don't mind it when it comes for a few days like this. The rest of the time I'm fine without it, but it's sure been a lot of fun. So hopefully this ride test has been helpful for you. Check back on our website. I'll try to post some more videos if I can once the snow goes away. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you want to order one yourself, you can do that online. Where you find our contact info. It's all at citruscycles.ca. Couldn't resist some bonus footage. Just beautiful trails here.